All right, what's up, middle school and high school students? My name is Coleman Marion. If we have not met before, I am the ministry leader of our high school ministry at Relevant Community Church called Youth United. Right now, I'm giving a message both for high school students and middle school students. Because of everything that's going on, we just felt like both of you needed a message that could be similar. We just want to be a little encouraging for you guys and just address what's going on in our community right now and really in our world as a whole. And so right now, as a church, we are experiencing something that is completely unprecedented. It's something that we've never experienced before. Like you, I am a student, I'm in college, and all my classes are getting canceled right now. It's absolutely crazy. And we moved our Sunday gatherings from in person here on a Sunday at the Relevant Center to completely online, just one gathering a week. And it's completely crazy. Normally this place is full of about 1,000 people. And this week on Sunday, it actually only had about 20 people in the building the entire day, which is just absolutely insane. For you guys, your classes are getting canceled, and we don't have Youth United, we don't have Rooted, and things are just completely different. And right now, you're probably stuck at home, probably watching this on YouTube. Maybe you're watching on Instagram. You've been playing video games, you've been watching your videos, you've been doing all your stuff, and ultimately, you're probably running out of things to do already. You're like, this is like 2 days in, what am I supposed to do? And you might actually be feeling kind of lost. And as a younger generation, I totally relate to this. I'm putting myself in your generation. I mean, I'm only 22, so really we probably are in the same generation, but think of ourselves as younger. We've never really experienced anything like this before. Maybe the closest thing we could say we've experienced to this is 9/11, but when that happened, I was 4 years old, and some of you probably weren't even alive then. And so for us, this is completely brand new where it's just like the world has stopped. And so I think that regardless of how you feel about this, I think some of you might be kind of excited. There's no school. I kind of feel that way. I'm like, well, it's a guaranteed 2 weeks off. You know, I'm kind of enjoying that. I could take a break, maybe focus on work instead of school for a little bit. Maybe you feel that way. Or you could focus on your Fortnite or whatever. You know, you're feeling kind of good. Maybe some of you are really upset that there's no school. Like you just love going to school. You love learning. I can't relate to that, but I know there are some of you out there who are that way. And then some of you are just like, yeah, it's whatever. They told me to go to school, I'd go to school. If they tell me not to go to school, I can enjoy that just as much. And so regardless of how you feel, I think there's one thing that all of us are feeling right now, and that's isolated. I think it makes sense. The whole verbiage is social distancing. It's getting away from each other. And we're feeling more disconnected from each other. We're feeling disconnected from our friends. We might even be feeling disconnected from our family. And the whole goal of this is just to connect with you guys as much as we can, even though we can't meet in person, to continue to connect with you as much as we can via social media, YouTube, all that kind of stuff. And so I'll tell you kind of what I have been feeling over the last couple days and stuff. When I was here on Thursday, I was at the Relevant Center. Thursday is one of the days where I work most often. And that was the day when we had just found out that the coronavirus was really around, that the NBA was postponing their season. The NCAA completely canceled March Madness. We weren't able to go to state basketball and watch Elkhorn and cheer them on. And some of us might feel like that's the reason why they lost, because they actually played really well. Everything was just getting canceled. The PGA, there was literally on Thursdays, like no sports are happening except for UFC apparently. Nothing else is happening for the foreseeable future. And then all of a sudden, school started to cancel. And it's like, all right, we're not even going to meet tomorrow. We're going to do an extended spring break, and we're going to talk about this over this extended spring break. And so schools were canceling. My college was canceling. Just so much stuff was happening. And I just remember sitting there, and I remember just moping. And I just kind of just slouched over. It was just like, whew, what in the world is going on? Like, this doesn't make sense to me. Like, everything is just ending all at the same time. And I honestly really struggle with it. I probably got nothing done all day on Thursday. And I don't want to say that because maybe my boss is going to see this and she's going to be like, oh, really? You didn't get anything done on Thursday? Yeah, I don't think I got anything done because honestly, I just felt depressed. I was like, it was just so weird. It's such a weird feeling that it felt like nothing was happening in our world anymore except for the coronavirus. And I got so concerned, I just got down on myself and I was really struggling. Honestly, that led me into how I've been feeling for the last couple of days. I was thinking about all this stuff is ending. Where am I supposed to go from here? And it started to make me think is God still around? Really, is he actually still doing something in our lives? Because so much of this stuff is going so poorly that it would make sense that he wouldn't be here anymore, wouldn't it? If Jesus just kind of pulled away for a little bit and all of a sudden all this bad stuff happened, I'm thinking, I'm just not seeing Jesus move at all. I'm not seeing God move whatsoever. And everything feels so still. And if I'm feeling that way, I can only imagine the way you as our students are feeling as well. And this is a big reason why we wanted to give this message to you guys. And I'm just thinking about not feeling God moving because it feels like the rest of the world has just stopped. And so I turned to the only place where I think I could turn to at this point. I was turning to God and I was just like, show me that you're moving. Show me that you care. Show me something, because even yesterday on Monday when I came into work, I still felt the same way where it was just like, God's not moving. I knew I had to give some sort of message to you guys. And I'm like, I just don't feel God moving. And so I opened up to this text in one of the Gospels. The Gospels are the written story of Jesus' life. It's a written down account. This particular one is the second Gospel. It's the Gospel of Mark. And so we're going to be in Mark chapter 4, verse 35. And this is called Jesus Calms the Storm. And it says, that day, when evening came, he said to his disciples, let's go over to the other side. So they were on one side of a lake, essentially, or a large sea is what they would have called it. And he's like, let's go to the other side. And so we're going to take a boat. We're going to go over there. So he's like, let's go to the other side. Leaving the crowd behind, there's a large crowd on the beach. They left them behind and they took along with them. It was just he with his disciples in the boat, and there were other boats around them. A furious squall came up, which just means a large storm. A large storm came up and the waves broke over the boat and it was nearly swamped, which means the waves were so big they were coming over the boat. The boat started taking on water. It was getting ready to, what the disciples assumed it was getting ready to sink. And Jesus was in the stern and he was asleep on a cushion. And all this, Jesus was asleep. And his disciples woke him up and said, teacher, don't you care if we drown? And he got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, quiet and be still. And the wind died down, and it was completely calm. And he said to his disciples, why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith? And they were terrified and asked each other, who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him. Now, something you have to realize about the disciples is a lot of the disciples, they were actually fishermen, which means being on a boat and knowing how to take care of a boat while it's going through a storm was part of their jobs. It was a pretty major part. They were on the sea for a large portion of their life, and so they would have known how to navigate through a storm. So this wasn't just your average storm. This was something to where these disciples who were experienced in this could no longer perform a job that they knew so well because of how big this storm was. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty familiar to me. I'm thinking about my job or your school. I think about my school. I think about all the things that we're used to doing that right now, because of this large storm, this virus, this thing that's in our lives that is causing our work to be something that we can no longer do. And so I'm picturing these disciples, and they're in this storm, and they're like, we're experts at this. Like, we know what we're supposed to be doing. We know how to navigate a storm, so we're just gonna do it ourselves. So that's what they do. They start doing it themselves, and all of a sudden the waves keep getting bigger. And right now, I think we're still trying to figure out, we're still doing this ourselves. We're like, we're gonna navigate this storm ourselves, but guys, the waves are gonna get bigger. It's gonna get harder. And at some point, the waves are gonna be so big that in our boat, the boat is like a representation of our lives. The waves are gonna start coming into our lives, and it's gonna be like, oh my goodness, we can no longer handle this. And they got so afraid of this storm that they ended up losing their faith in Jesus. And so what they end up doing is they go to the stern of the boat where Jesus is actually asleep. They're losing their faith in Jesus. Even though Jesus is on the boat with them, they are still losing their faith. That's how big this storm was. And so what they do is they walk back to the boat and they wake Jesus up and they're like, Jesus, do you not care if we drown? What does that mean? They're saying, Jesus, do you not care if we die? And Jesus gets up, I assume very nonchalantly, in a very Jesus way. He probably gets up, he's been asleep, so he's got to stretch out a little bit. And he walks out of the boat and he rebukes the wind, which is he tells the wind and he tells the waves, quiet and be still. And the waves are quiet. And the wind stops blowing so hard. And everything is still. His disciples are like, whoa, that was awesome. That was so cool to see. And then he turns to him, probably looks at him and is like, really? Really? You thought that there was nothing that I could do to stop this storm? I am literally on the boat with you. Do you really not have enough faith to think that this storm was actually going to kill you? Was your fear so bad that you thought that your faith was in jeopardy and I would not be able to do what I needed to do? Jesus moved and the storm stopped. Jesus spoke and the storm was quiet. And this is where we need to apply to our lives today. Right now, we are in what may be the beginning, what could be the middle. We're not sure where we are in the storm, but there is no doubt in my mind that right now we are in a storm. And it's a big one. It's one like we've been in storms before, but we figure out how to navigate through them. We have figured out how to do this thing in the past, but this one is something different that we have never experienced before. And we have our faith, but all of a sudden that fear is starting to creep up. We're like, we've never seen this, so that fear is creeping up. We've never experienced this, so that fear is creeping up. And all of a sudden, that fear is starting to take over our faith in Jesus. And like the disciples, we forget about our faith. And we start to think, well, there's no way that Jesus can move in this. I mean, it's a virus. People are getting sick every single day. People are dying every single day because of this. Jesus can't move through this. Heck, our churches are canceling what they're doing because of this virus. Jesus can't move if we don't meet. We can't go to school. If we can't go to school, we can't share who Jesus is. If we can't go to school, then there's no way that we can share Jesus. If we can't go to Youth United, we can't learn more about Jesus. If there's no Youth United, there's no Rooted. Like, if we can't meet and learn more about Jesus, how is Jesus going to move? Because outside of those environments, there's no way that Jesus could move unless we're meeting. And guys, it doesn't matter if our rooms are empty. Right now, I am giving this message, and there are 3 people in this room right now. This room is practically empty. It can fit more than 800 people in it. And there are 3 people in here, and I'm still trying to deliver this message. And it might be empty, but Jesus is still going to move. We might be sick right now. You might be sick right now, but Jesus can still move in your life. We might not be going to school right now, but Jesus can still move. Our lives are completely different than what we're used to, but Jesus is still going to move in our lives. But the only way that he is actually going to move is if we keep our faith over our fear. It is scary. No joke. I am afraid of what's happening right now because I don't understand it. I don't have a degree in viruses. I'm not a doctor. I don't know this stuff at all. I'm afraid of catching this illness. I'm afraid of giving it to somebody else if I did catch it. I am afraid the same way that you are. And I've let my fear overcome my faith. And for the last 4 or 5 days, my fear has overtaken my life, and it's been anxious. It's caused depression in my life. And I read that story, and I think the disciples were the same way. And Jesus would say that in the middle of a storm, that is the most important time to have your faith. And so right now, I don't know where you are in your walk with Jesus. I don't know if you know him really well, if you consider yourself a Christ follower, or maybe you're not quite to that step yet. I don't know where you're at. But right now, in the middle of our fear, the number one thing that we can have is not a vaccine for this. It's not friendships with other people around us. It's not going to a church to go and learn more about Jesus. The number one thing we need right now is our faith in Jesus. Because only through him are we going to ever be able to have peace about this. Through him, we will come through this storm. Jesus is the only one that could say, quiet and be still. This is why, for Youth United especially, but for Rooted and for our next gen environments, we are going to continue to say the phrase, faith over fear. Our faith needs to be more than what our fear is. If our faith is higher than our fear, then we will be able to overcome this no matter what it turns into. Now, I know that's a lot easier said than done. I know how easy it is to let fear creep up on us, but there are over 80 times Jesus says, fear not, or it is said, do not be afraid. There are so many times where it is told we should not fear because it's not in our hands, it's in his hands. So guys, continue saying that phrase. We need to have our faith over our fear. And so there's something that I want us to do through this entire week right now. Starting with when you watch this video, I want you to do something. I want you to take a Sharpie, and you'll see it on my social media Wednesday night. I want you to take a Sharpie, and on your hand, I want you to write faith over fear. You'll see it on Youth United social media. You will see it on Rooted social media. I want it written on all of our hands, faith over fear, as a constant reminder for us that our faith needs to be higher than our fear. If our fear takes over and we lose our faith, then we're losing everything. And so that's just going to be our next step. And I want you guys to not just keep that to yourself as a reminder for yourself. I want you to put it on your social media. I want you guys to post your hand with faith over fear written on it. I want you guys to post about that. I want you guys to say why you want to have faith and you don't want fear to take over your life right now in the situation that we are in. You're going to see it on my social media. You'll see it on Devin's social media. It'll be on your small group leader social media. And guys, share it. Because right now, your friends and your family who may not consider themselves Christ followers, they are going to be a lot more open to a faith in Jesus because there is nowhere else to go because we are all so afraid. We may feel like we can't share what we have because we have to social distance. We can't see other people. But guys, right now, because of social media, we have a chance to share our faith to people who are more than ever willing to accept it. That's why I'm so upset that we cannot meet together on a Wednesday or a Sunday night right now, because I so badly want to be able to share the good news that Jesus has, but we can't because of this virus. And so we're not going to let that hold us down. We're going to keep going, and we're going to keep sharing what Jesus has. And so we're going to start out with faith over fear. Also, for the next foreseeable future, while we are not meeting, we don't know exactly how long we won't be together. It could be a week, it could be 8 weeks. We have no idea how long we're not going to be together, but as long as we're not together, we're going to make you a promise. We are going to get you some sort of content, as rooted in Youth United, as our middle school and high school environments. We're going to get you some sort of content on Monday, on Wednesday, and on Friday. This is going to be stuff that you can watch yourself, that you can share to your friends. It's going to be applicable to your lives. It's going to be funny. It's going to be entertaining. You guys are going to enjoy it. We might do just some little skits about surviving in the coronavirus time. We're going to do all kinds of different stuff in order to make sure that you guys are still getting a message of Jesus right now. And we're going to be centering it all around faith over fear, because of how important that is. So guys, your next step is exactly what I've been talking about. Just write it on your hand. Faith over fear. And if you can remind yourself of that every day while we're experiencing this scary time, I guarantee you that we're going to be able to come through it better than if we let that fear overtake our faith. Now, be on the lookout for our social media, for all that content that we're going to be producing for you guys. That's also going to be our primary way of contacting of when we're actually going to be able to meet again and see you guys on a Sunday night for middle school students or a Wednesday night for high school students. And we're super excited to have the opportunity when we do get to come back together. But until then, our ministry does not stop. We're not going to stop for the coronavirus. This isn't going to stop us. We are going to keep going after it. We're going to keep building our faith no matter what the circumstances are. So I want to see that all over our social media this week. I just want to see faith over fear. But let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you for all these students who are with us online, and I pray that they would feel this message, that they would feel that their faith is more important than the fear that they have, that God, that they would feel like that their faith would overflow, and that yes, they are afraid, but no matter what, that their faith would stay over that fear. I pray that they would know, that they would not be like the disciples and let that fear take over their lives, and that they would just put their faith in you and not keep it to themselves, but share it to their friends who are also afraid, and share it so that they would know that if they put their faith in Jesus, that there is no need for the fear in their lives. I thank you that students are able to watch this. I thank you for providing us with an opportunity to be able to get this kind of video out to our students in such a convenient way. And I just thank you for each and every student who's watching this, whether they are healthy or they are sick. I pray for protection over them. I pray that we would all remain as healthy as possible, and that we would be able to overcome this situation in our lives, and that we would be better people because of it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.